December 16th, 1897. A Thursday evening in London. The Strand district. Bull Inn Court, a narrow alley running behind the Adelphi Theatre. William Terriss, the most famous actor in England, walked through the darkness with his friend John Graves. They had just finished dinner at the nearby Green Room Club. Terriss was in good spirits. He was starring in the American drama Secret Service at the Adelphi, playing the lead role of Captain Thorne to sold-out audiences night after night. He was loved by the public, adored by fans, a household name across Britain. As they approached the private stage door at the back of the theatre, Terriss reached into his pocket for his key. The time was just before 8 in the evening. The performance would begin soon. He needed to prepare. He inserted the key into the lock. A figure emerged from the shadows. A tall man wearing a dark cape moved swiftly toward Terriss. Before anyone could react, the man lunged forward and plunged a knife into Terriss's back. The actor cried out and staggered. The knife stabbed him again in the side and again in the chest. Terriss collapsed against the door. Blood poured from the wounds. The attacker stood over him for a moment, then turned and walked calmly away. John Graves shouted for help. The stage doorkeeper, Henry Spratt, rushed out. They carried Terriss inside and laid him on a sofa in the green room. Someone ran to fetch a doctor. Someone else called the police. Terriss was conscious but fading fast. Blood soaked through his clothes. The knife had pierced his lung and struck his heart. He was dying. Jessie Millward, Terriss's leading lady and close companion, heard the commotion and came running. She fell to her knees beside him. Terriss looked at her and whispered, "I will come back." Then his eyes closed. Within 10 minutes of being stabbed, William Terriss was dead. He was 50 years old. Police arrived quickly. Witnesses described the attacker, a tall man in a dark cape, thin-faced, around 30 to 40 years old. He had walked away down Maiden Lane after the attack, making no attempt to run. Officers fanned out across the area searching for him. They found him less than half an hour later at a public house called the Lamb and Flag on nearby Bedfordbury. He was sitting calmly at a table drinking. When police approached him, he stood up and said, "I did it for revenge. He had kept me out of employment for 10 years, and I had either to die in the street or kill him." The man's name was Richard Archer Prince. He was a struggling actor, known to some as Mad Archer or Mad Prince because of his increasingly unstable behavior. He was 38 years old. He came from Dundee in Scotland, but had moved to London years earlier, hoping to make a career on the stage. Prince had indeed been employed at the Adelphi Theatre at various times over the years. William Terriss had helped him find work on several occasions. Terriss was known in the theatre world for his generosity towards struggling actors. He would quietly give them money, recommend them for roles, offer encouragement when times were hard. He had done the same for Richard Prince many times. But Prince's mind had been deteriorating for years. He drank heavily. He became paranoid. He began to believe that William Terriss was deliberately preventing him from getting work, that Terriss stood in his way, that Terriss was the reason for all his failures. It was not true. Terriss had only ever tried to help him. But in Prince's deranged mind, Terriss had become his enemy. In the weeks before the murder, Prince had tried several times to waylay Terriss at the theatre. He had been seen hanging around Bull Inn Court, watching, waiting. On one occasion, he had confronted Terriss in his dressing room, making wild accusations. Terriss, genuinely sorry that Prince was struggling, had offered him money and words of encouragement. Prince took the money, but his bitterness only deepened. He used some of that money to buy the murder weapon. The knife was a butcher's knife, thin-bladed, very sharp, double-edged at the point. A most murderous-looking weapon, the newspapers called it.
Prince had carried it with him for days, waiting for the right moment. On December 16th, he positioned himself in the shadows near the private door Terriss always used. When the actor arrived with his friend, Prince attacked without warning. The news of Terriss's murder shocked the nation. William Charles James Lewin, known professionally as William Terriss, had been born in London on February 20, 1847. His early life had been adventurous. He had worked as a sailor, a banker, a tea planter in India. He had tried sheep farming in the Falkland Islands and engineering in Argentina. He had traveled to America. He had tried many professions before finally settling on acting in his mid-20s. He returned to London in 1873 and broke onto the stage with help from the prominent Terriss family of actors. He appeared at the principal London theatres from 1868 until his death. At the Royal Court Theatre in 1878, Terriss acted opposite Ellen Terry. He later played Romeo to the popular Adelaide Neilson's Juliet. In 1880, he joined Sir Henry Iving, the great Victorian actor-manager, at the Lyceum Theatre, performing Shakespearean parts, including Cassio in Othello, Mercutio in Romeo and Juliet, and Henry VIII. He remained with the Lyceum until 1883. Then he joined the Adelphi Theatre as the leading man. It was there he became a public idol. He starred in a famous series of melodramas, playing romantic heroes with gusto and a debonair style that won him the affectionate nickname Breezy Bill. He was swashbuckling, charming, large than life. Audiences loved him. In 1885, he met a young actress named Jessie Millward in a production of The Harbour Lights. The show was an extraordinary success and established them both as romantic leads. They were hired to headline at the Adelphi. Terriss remained a fixture there, drawing huge crowds until the night he was murdered.
It was widely rumoured that William Terriss and Jessie Millward had developed a romantic relationship offstage as well as on. Terriss was married to Isabel Lewis, but at the Adelphi Theatre he and Jessie were inseparable. Their closeness was remarked upon by colleagues and noted by the press, though it remained a matter of speculation rather than proof. In the days before his death, Jessie later said she had been troubled by terrible nightmares. She claimed she dreamed that Terriss was in danger, that he was calling out to her. She could not shake the feeling that something dreadful was approaching, a sense of unease that followed her into waking life. On the night of December 16th, her sense of foreboding seemed to find its fulfillment. It was later claimed that Jessie's understudy had also experienced a disturbing dream on the night before the murder. She reportedly said, "I dreamt I saw Mr. Terriss lying on a landing, surrounded by a crowd, and that he was raving. I seemed to see it all, and then it all faded away. It was a horrible dream, and I could not tell what it meant." The following night, William Terriss was dead. Richard Archer Prince was arrested and charged with murder. He showed no remorse. From the moment of his arrest, he insisted that he had been justified in killing Terriss. He told police that Terriss had ruined his career, kept him out of work, and caused him to suffer for 10 years. There was no evidence that any of this was true, but Prince believed every word. The trial took place in January 1898 at the Old Bailey. The evidence was overwhelming. Multiple witnesses had seen Prince stab Terriss. The murder weapon had been recovered. Prince had confessed almost immediately. Despite this, the defense argued that Prince was insane and could not be held responsible for his actions because his mind was broken. Medical experts testified that Prince suffered from delusions. He believed things that were not real. He heard voices. He experienced paranoia, and his behavior had been erratic for years. Fellow actors testified that he was known as Mad Archer and that his instability was widely recognized within theatrical circles. The press described him as a tall, sallow-complexioned man of about 38 years of age. He often wore a cape of eccentric cut, and this appearance had led to early rumors that the murderer was a foreigner, rumors that proved unfounded once Prince was identified. The jury returned its verdict, guilty but insane. Richard Prince would not hang. Instead, he was sent to Broadmoor Criminal Lunatic Asylum in Berkshire. He would spend the rest of his life there. Prince remained at Broadmoor for 38 years, far longer than William Terriss lived after the night they first met. He died there in 1937 at the age of 76. William Terriss's funeral took place at Brompton Cemetery in London. Tens of thousands of people lined the streets to pay their respects. The crowds were immense, and the grief was unmistakable. The entire theatrical world mourned. Henry Iving, Ellen Terry, and countless other actors attended. Jessie Millward was inconsolable. She never fully recovered from his death. Breezy Bill, the beloved romantic hero of the Adelphi stage, was gone. But the story did not end with his burial. Almost immediately, reports began to surface of William Terriss's ghost. Staff at the Adelphi Theatre claimed to see him walking the corridors. In 1928, a young actress resting in what had once been Jessie Millward's dressing room reported that the couch she lay upon began to shake. She described seeing a greenish mist and feeling invisible hands seize her arms. Bruises appeared and lasted for several days. Other employees reported seeing a figure dressed in Victorian clothing moving silently through the building. When shown photographs of Terrace, several said they recognized him as the figure they had seen. The sightings were not limited to the theatre. In the decades that followed, numerous witnesses reported encounters with a ghostly figure at Covent Garden Underground station, a short distance from the Adelphi. Station staff described a man in Victorian attire appearing on platforms, in passageways, and near the ticket office. When shown photographs of Terrace, several witnesses identified him as the apparition they had encountered. The last widely reported sighting at Covent Garden occurred in 1972, though staff continued to speak of unexplained footsteps and whispered voices long afterward. The ghost stories persist to this day. The Adelphi Theatre and Covent Garden Station are considered among the most haunted locations in London. Whether William Terriss truly kept his promise to Jessie and returned, or whether the stories are legends born from tragedy, remains a matter of belief. But the tale endures. William Terriss was murdered at the height of his fame. He was loved by audiences, respected by fellow actors, and known for his generosity. He helped Richard Prince on several occasions, offering money and support when the younger actor struggled. Prince repaid that kindness with a knife plunged into his chest. The murder invited comparison with the most famous theatrical killing in English history, that of Christopher Marlowe, stabbed in a Deptford tavern in 1593. Both deaths were violent and shocking. Both ended brilliant careers far too soon. Both left the world wondering what might have been. Richard Prince achieved in death what he never achieved in life. He became famous. His name is remembered not for his acting, but for his crime. He entered history as the man who killed William Terriss, the deranged actor who murdered England's greatest stage star. He spent nearly 40 decades locked away at Broadmoor, living with the consequences of what he had done. William Terriss lies in Brompton Cemetery. A memorial stands outside the Adelphi Theatre, marking the spot where he was stabbed. His ghost, according to those who believe, still walks the corridors of the theatre he loved and the underground station nearby. Whether spirit or legend, William Terriss remains part of London's theatrical history, the actor who promised he would come back and, in the stories at least, kept his word.